So the green light that got given to the S-Force to go ahead and kill him, which they wanted to do anyhow, came from that group. Okay, and that's partly because it's China lobby, that they have the long range view. And Mark Felt was getting set to after the burglary. Mark Felt, who was the deputy director of the CIA or deputy director of the FBI, he came in under Pat Gray. Pat Gray got appointed when J. Edgar Hoover died. And Pat Gray, this all becomes critical during the Watergate burglary because the burglary takes place on the night of the 17th. They're arraigned on the 18th. Bob Woodward picks up on the fact that one of the guys that's been arrested is a CIA wiretapping specialist, McCord, and starts trying to track the story, what's going on. On the morning of the 23rd of June, what's his head? His chief of staff. Nixon's chief of staff
wasn't.
No, what's it said?
Can we Google that?
Not John. It wasn't John.
I
Dean.
Can't remember the name.
It was
Robbins. Halderman?
No, Altman.
Alderman.
Yeah. That he comes into the Oval Office, and he said, "Mr. President, we got a problem here." That John Dean has just called. Pat Gray has just come over, the head of the FBI, said that they're getting lots and lots of pressure to go investigate this bank down in Mexico City, where these $100 bills have been come from. And he said, and he wants to know if that's going to cause any problem. And Nixon says to Haldeman, he says, "Look." He said, "Get a hold of John Ehrlichman. Get a hold of John, and go on over to the agency right away, and go over there and sit down with Vernon Walters and with Dick Helms, and you tell them right now to call the FBI and tell them to get the hell out of that part of the investigation." And
totally illegal.
And Haldeman says to him, "Well, what am I supposed to tell him to say?" And he said, "You just tell them that if they don't get the FBI out of this part of the investigation, all the Mexico stuff about the Bay of Pigs guys could all come out." Ooh. Right? Nobody knows what that means. Nobody knows what that means. But what they're talking about is the base. They're talking about the base in Oaxaca, Mexico, with the training of the Bay of Pigs guys. That those are the guys that were being trained to do the assassination, because he knew that the assassination team could have gotten exposed, because it turns out that's the place where they paid the Watergate burglars out of that account down in Mexico City.
The one down there.
Out of the Ogario account. That's where the $100 bills came from, and that's the account where they were paying for the Triangular Fire Team base. It would have led right back to the assassination, and it turns out that Howard Hughes, E. Howard Hunt, and Frank Sturgis were liaisons to the S-Force. Both of those guys. Okay, so that they were not only coordinating the burglary, but they were coordinating the S-Force that was the assassination team that was designed. And as Trafficante told us, this is the team that killed the president. And that becomes crucial.
So you're sitting in a room in Tampa with your partners, and you're talking to this mob boss.
No, it was Bad Andy was the one talking to him. Bad Andy was the one talking to him, and Trafficante sits right there.
But you're sitting there and you hear this.
No, he comes back and tells me this.
Oh, okay.
But the bottom line is, there he is saying flat out, so this is the team that killed the president. He said.
How do you react to that?
Well, when I found that Bill Taylor told me, because Bad Andy had come back from interviewing Trafficante and was just completely thunderstruck by what he had found out.
Yeah.
And he reached out to Bill Taylor, my investigator, and said, "Look, you two boys are good boys. You ought to leave right now." He said, "You don't want to go any farther in this. You both want to leave Bailey's office and don't come back." He said, "Just leave." And Bill Taylor, my chief investigator, that's not something you tell him, "Oh, you don't want to know." And so Bill just leaned in on him and got him to tell him what Trafficante had told us. And so Bill Taylor and I just said, "Fuck this, man! We're out of here."
Wait a minute. Let me back up for 1 minute, just because I'm trying to put this all together too. Obviously, it's tied, but there's also this weird, like, recent small movement online. There's a movement with every goddamn thing these days where they try to relitigate Watergate as, oh no, Nixon didn't order anything. It was just the CIA setup because they wanted to get him out of the way, maybe because he knew too much. That's bullshit.
It's all bullshit.
Right, because he did
It's all
order
bullshit.
it.
People don't know anything about what they're talking about.
Right. But the people who did it,
Did what?
who actually broke into the building and did Watergate are completely inseparable from the Kennedy situation.
Well, that's right, because three of them were part of the S Force. I mean, the three, Rolando Martinez, Ricardo Chavez, the guys, and Bernard Barker, are all part of the S Force. They were part of the 15 people that were gunmen for Santos Trafficante. They were part of the force, right? And the reason they were in there is because they couldn't have just anybody going in trying to find out whether Larry O'Brien, who had been the lobbyist for Howard Hughes, had somehow found out about the fact that Hughes was the guy that Richard Nixon had create the team that created the assassination team back in 1960. Remember? So Howard Hughes is the guy that set up the team to kill Castro. They're the ones that killed the president. And Nixon was sure that if it leaked out that he's the one that created the team who end up being the one who killed the president, everybody would have been convinced he was in behind it.
But it's not like they acted on their own. When we're talking about killed the president, there's also, obviously there was the falling out with JFK and Allen Dulles, where he fires Allen Dulles, and then Allen Dulles effectively runs the CIA from his Georgetown, townhouse or whatever. So when you look at it from a high level based on all the wild information who's responsible? S4 killed him.
Yeah.
Right? And we can go into exactly who you think did.
Yeah.
But who's responsible? Like, who said, we're doing this? Who were the guys in charge?
It was the Brown Brothers Harriman people. That they're the ones that would greenlight this. And it was Allen Dulles who was their consigliere. Yeah. He wasn't, the reason he was made the head of the Central Intelligence Agency was because he was legal counsel for Brown Brothers Harriman. It's not the other way around.
The military-industrial complex, if you will.
I mean, because the CIA was actually created pursuant to a memo that was written by Robert Lovett, who was the senior partner at Brown Brothers Harriman. He wrote it to Truman, advocating that they create a Central Intelligence Agency and that they have this capacity to do this. So that that's who Allen Dulles was. So the green light that got given to the S Force to go ahead and kill him, which they wanted to do anyhow, came from that group. Okay, and that's partly because it's China lobby, that they have the long range view that what they're doing is they're going to have to maintain preservation of the nuclear weapons systems in order to confront China, because you can't back China off with any kind of a threat of a traditional land war against them. You have to just threaten them with the nuclear weapons. And that's why they couldn't get rid of them. And that's why Kennedy had to be gotten rid of right away. People keep saying, why didn't they just wait until the election and put in billions of dollars and beat him, in the election? They couldn't wait because he had a whole other year from November of 62 to November or 63 to 64. And he could have undertaken unilateral action as the president, commander-in-chief, to start disassembling the warheads. And that's what he was in the process of thinking of doing.
How do you know so confidently that, what was his name, Lorenzo Morales? Is that it?
Roger Morales.
Roger Morales?
Yeah, David Sanchez Morales is the guy.
David Sanchez Morales was the dude from the grassy knoll.
Yeah, he was the shooter. Everybody knew that he was the shooter. He was the shooter for the team. He was the shooter for the team. He was the
S Force.
The S Force. Yeah, that's the guy.
What was his background besides being a Cuban revolutionary?
He was the maximum marksman for them in the Triangular Fire Team base. That's who he was, Morales. And the 15 guys there, we got the names of them. We know who they were.
When did you get the names?
I got the names back in May from Trafficante.
In May 73.
73. Yeah.
He gave you all of them.
Yeah, he laid them out just like that.
And they weren't. It's not like they were all physically there that day.
Well,
Right?
actually, they were pretty well deployed in Dallas. Yeah, the whole team was there. It was a full operation. They had Rip Robertson was there. Rip Robertson is their field commander. There's a photograph of Rip Robertson standing right next to the Stennis freeway sign, standing right there. You can see the front whole in the photograph. You can see the whole front bumper of Kennedy's limousine coming in to see. And there's Rip Robertson tipping his hat to the president, 1.2 seconds before the first shot rang out.
Oh my God!
So in Rip Robertson is the field commander for those. I know guys who know Rip Robertson. They gone hunting with Rip Robertson. Rip Robertson. They knew exactly who he was, and he was the guy that trained them all. My guy stood right on the deck of the Flying Tiger too, with Rip Robertson and what's his name? What was the guy's name? William D. Pauley, who owned the Flying Tiger too. And when Johnny Martino was just bitching about the Kennedys and what sons of bitches they were and how they betrayed them and all that, and William Pauley turned directly to Johnny Martino at the time. He says, "Don't worry, Johnny, we're going to kill that motherfucker." Said it right in front of my guy. It was Dick Billings. Dick Billings, who was the Miami bureau chief for Life magazine. He was on board the ship because this was the last attempt they were going to make to try to assassinate Castro after they'd been ordered to stand down by John Kennedy and Bobby.
I might be getting this mixed up, but was Jose Rodriguez a part of that S-Force?
Jose Rodriguez. There's Rolando. There's Rolando Martinez. No, not that I know of. No.
What was his tie though to JFK? Jose Rodriguez?
Jose Felix, you were talking about Felix.
I'm sorry, I keep saying
yeah, because I was trying to figure out who you're talking about.
Felix Rodriguez.
Felix Rodriguez was in fact on the S-Force.
Okay.
Felix Rodriguez was on the S-Force. Rafael Chichi Quintero was on the S-Force.
Wait, Rafa Quintero, like the fucking cartel guy?
Yes, Rafael Chichi Quintero.
The Mexican?
No, Rafael Chichi Quintero is a particular guy. He's a longtime Cuban hardcore guy. He was the number 2 to Felix Rodriguez at Ilopango at the weapons transfer for the Contra weapons supply operation. That was Chichi.
Okay.
But Chichi was one of the main shooters, and Chichi was one of the trainers. Chichi, let's see here. Felix Rodriguez ended up being one of the trainers for the Lebanese Phalange assassins under Shackley.
Who were they?
Shackley was handpicked. Theodore Shackley is this really important character that people don't know about. Theodore Shackley is the guy that he was a German and Polish American translator back during World War II. His family fled from Poland before World War II. And he grew up here. He was in the 101st Counterintelligence Corps at the end of World War II. And when Reinhard Gehlen, who was the head of the Waffen-SS, anti-Soviet and anti-Eastern Bloc intelligence, turned himself in to the 101st Counterintelligence Corps in Germany, this fellow was assigned to be his translator, Theodore Shackley. So he was with him when Gehlen came to Fort Hood outside of Washington, D.C., and had a long, protracted negotiation with them about allowing him to head up West German intelligence at the end of World War II. And he brought his entire organization, what they call the Gehlen organization, out of the Third Reich with him into West Germany to head up the anti-Soviet and anti-Eastern Bloc intelligence for NATO for 26 years. And Theodore Shackley was left on as his deputy. Was in the original class of the CIA, 1948. And he was assigned, his first assignment was to go back to Berlin and to work directly under Gehlen. And General Gehlen became the head of the West German intelligence for 26 years. And Shackley was his deputy there at the Berlin operating base of the CIA. And Shackley was brought in to be the new Miami station chief out of Berlin, out from under Gehlen, who was this kind of rabid anti-communist guy. fascist, full scale, Third Reich fascist.
Yeah.
And so they brought in Shackley to be the new station chief in Miami to run that JM Wave operation. That was the prodigy to the Operation 40. That was Shackley. And Shackley, therefore, had supervisory authority over the S-Force. The S-Force, since it was made up of guys out of Operation 40, those guys were under the auspices of Theodore Shackley as the CIA station chief in Florida. Okay? Then he went from there, from being the CIA station chief in Florida to being the CIA deputy station chief in Laos, and then the CIA station chief in Laos, where he established the contract with Vang Pao, the opium warlord.
Yep.
And ended up, eliminating both competitors to Vang Pao in the Golden Triangle by calling in sorties against them, and ended up reducing by 1/3 the total output of opium coming out of the Golden Triangle, but established complete monopoly control over it on behalf of Vang Pao, and then was given a percentage of the profits, which he put over into the Nugan Bank. I've talked to the guys that used to bring suitcases.
This is where it came to the church.
That's just where to get out church security. Yeah, that's the source of the money. That's Theodore Shackley, and Theodore Shackley ended up being handpicked by George Bush Sr. when he became the director of the CIA under Ford. That he brought in Bush to be the CIA director, and Bush brought in Shackley to be the head of covert operations worldwide. And that's Theodore Shackley. He's the one that ran the enterprise. He's the one that created the enterprise. It wasn't Oliver North or any of those people. It was Theodore Shackley. Ran that entire operation, created that entire thing. Set up the Egyptian-American Transport and Service Company, which was the mothership for that whole thing. Set up the off-the-shelf enterprise. Ran all of the Midnight Aviation, all of those corporations that were smuggling the weapons into the Contras and smuggling the cocaine back into the United States. That's all Shackley. Shackley's the one that supervised the October surprise against Carter. When they made the deal with the hostages
with the
to have Hezbollah hold 52 hostages. That was Shackley.
And wait until Reagan.
That's right. That was Shackley's operation. Shackley ran that whole thing. Yeah, and he was
watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.